Hello, amigas. I hope you are all doing well. And this episode, there's a lot of background noise. I do have to preface that. My girls are in the back a lot. You can definitely hear them, but that's mom life, right? And this episode came out a little later than usual. Actually, I didn't even think it was going to be released today. I thought it was going to be released sometime later this week. Before I get into the episode, I've been really organically feeling and letting go of these high expectations that I have for myself. And while yes, it's important to have expectations and standards for ourselves, there are certain things that I've let go to not be as rigid. And so I'm really giving myself more space, more permission to not feel like I always have to have everything ready, quote unquote, perfectly, right? Continuing to do the work on perfectionism and all or nothing thinking and people pleasing also on top of that. This has really helped me to not only release a lot less anxiety and stress and too much pressure that I've been putting on myself. That's helped me. Just doing that in itself has helped me to bring more energy, more joy and peace to my physical body, where I'm not holding on to so much tension and I'm not having all these busy thoughts and guilty of like, oh, you got to be working on this and putting all these really extreme deadlines. And while all those deadlines can be helpful, I'm just really giving myself the space to show up imperfectly. And when I freaking feel like it, it's important to me to show up on a regular basis consistently, because these podcast episodes mean a lot to me. And I hope that by bringing them, it brings you some value as well. And so I will always continue to show up. You know, I have things going on in my life too, obviously, right? I have my own stressors, my own worries, my own busy schedule with my kids. I still work full time on top of it. I still put together, content for my YouTube channel. And so there's a lot that goes into everything in our everyday lives, right? Not to mention challenges from family that we've been having. And so just really giving myself space to just let go of a lot of those high expectations. Do what feels good, what feels in alignment, what feels easy, what feels light, what feels smooth. And that it will all work out and it will align just as it should. And because of that, I had a lot more time open in my schedule today to edit the podcast episode, and I'm able to post it today. And so in actuality, I thought I wasn't going to be able to post it until later on this week. So the messages that I just want to share, I offer you this suggestion that where in your life could you go a little softer on yourself? Could you maybe bring down some of those higher expectations that are causing you overwhelm and too much tension in your body? How can you soften those just a little bit? How can you give yourself a little bit more space to let go maybe of some people pleasing or perfectionism or all or nothing thinking that will still allow you to show up, just not in this maybe rigid way that you've learned for over years and years and years. And that's how we break through that cycle, right? So I just want to share that because I've really been feeling that a lot lately, and it's felt really, really freaking good, honestly. And empowering and freeing. So I just want to share that if you are like a person who feels like you always have to have everything done at this time or done this way, or you're going to let people down, or it's like whatever thoughts that you have or beliefs around that, I challenge you to start breaking through some of those and doing things differently, and you'll still show up. Okay. So just want to challenge you on that today. I'll go ahead and bring in the pre-recorded episode. It's with a relative of mine that we just finally came to connect after so many years. I met her when I was a little girl, so little that I don't remember anymore. So we're having a really great conversation around mental health, her journey as an entrepreneur, as a mom, around chronic anxiety and depression, and how she's been navigating that as of late. So yeah, let's get right into it. Hello, friends. Welcome back to another episode on a mother's journey to holistic health and healing. This is episode 38. Today, I'm having a very special guest who happens to be a relative, a prima of mine that we just kind of came to connect recently. And so that's pretty exciting to connect with a family member that I haven't connected with before since maybe we were probably like little girls. And we're talking about mental health today. And so her name is Ashley. She's going to be talking about her journey so far, and she's pretty much in the thick of it right now. She's going to be sharing her experiences, how it started, where she's at right now, and really just bringing her insight and wisdom that she's learned so far, that she's cultivated so far, and her passion, how it's turned into a passion of hers to bring awareness to the community, especially here in El Paso, and for her listeners through her own podcast. So we're going to talk about all that, all the kind of challenges that she had, all her breakthroughs, talking about the stigma of mental health, maybe busting through some of those myths, and really just, bringing some awareness to talking about how important not only mental health is, but how many of us move through the motions and live with mental health conditions, and how we're just trying to, live our life at the same time, really. So she's going to be talking all about that today. And I'm going to go ahead and bring her in so she can introduce herself. So come on in, Ashley.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Marissa, for having me on. And I know we're trying to figure out, are we first cousins? I think we're second cousins.
Yeah.
So it's really cool. But yeah, I remember I hung out with your sister more so. Like I remember when we were little kids, like being at your grandma's house. So it's pretty cool cool and sad, I think. Like after all of these years, like reconnecting, but also reconnecting in a time where we're focusing on healing, and it's kind of a different introduction. Which is kind of cool because I feel like when you grow up with cousins, it's just like you grow up as cousins, and so it's different. But like us having known each other with little tiny kids, and then now as adults, and having gone through our whole lives without connecting, and then connecting in a way where it's like, my mom was like, look at Marissa, and I'm like, okay. So I started looking, and so it was really cool. But thank you for having me on, and I'm all about timing is everything, and I feel like this was just the right time.
I agree. Yeah. Well, tell us more. Tell us more about, where you're from, who you grew up with, kids, what you do.
Yeah, so I'm a old lady. No, I'm just kidding. I'm 44.
I've done that path too.
I call myself, so I identify with Gen Xers. I refuse to call myself a millennial because like they used to call our age 44 Gen X, and so like I wear like what is it, a badge of honor, because we went through some stuff, and so for me that's what I call myself, as a Gen Xer. But basically I'm a Gen Xer who is entrepreneur, business owner, mother, wife, and I pretty much was fortunate enough to be a stay-at-home mom for my kids, growing up and everything. My daughter is 19 now, and my son is 16, and so we really have been able to kind of go through that. Like I basically made the decision as soon as I found out I was pregnant with my daughter, was like, I'm gonna do motherhood differently than, my mom was young when she had me, so my parents were young when they had me, so I wanted to do things just differently. And so I was fortunate to where my husband was in the military, and I was able to be a stay-at-home mom, and I really devoted myself to my kids and to my husband, and that's kind of the beginnings. I've struggled with mental health issues. However, since I was about 6 years old is the first time I remember like feeling panic and out of control.
Did you say 6?
6, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And so back in the 80s, there was no anxiety or panic attacks. I was just throwing tantrums. So that was another reason. Once I found out I was going to have my daughter, it was like, okay, this is going to be different. How can I change for the better? And so we went through my whole life having anxiety and panic attacks. I didn't get diagnosed with it until I was like 37. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's crazy that it took that long. But since then, I've just been on the journey of trying to heal, break cycles, and
Mm-hmm.
just be the best version of myself for myself to show my kids that there is a better way, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
Yeah,
that's kind of just like a
I love that.
because it'll be forever, but
No,
that
yeah.
inspired me to,
Start.
that inspired me
Yeah.
with the healing journey to want to start a podcast and share my journey of healing and mental health because at the time when I was 37, there it was pre-pandemic. There was no resources. There
Mm-hmm.
was no YouTube videos. There was
Exactly.
no Instagram algorithm of
Right.
anxiety at that
Yeah,
time.
you
There
can
was
just look
nothing.
it up like at the flicker. There's
No,
no AI.
no,
Exactly.
exactly. And now it's like all over my
So much
algorithm.
tools.
So like I had let fear kind of hold me back from a lot of things. And it was just a fear of who knows what it was. Um, no, I do know. It was a lot of validation. I needed external validation for a lot of the
Mm-hmm.
things because I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't give it to myself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is when we are in the healing journey or when we're not healed and we're feeling some type of way, we go through things and we're like, we wonder why we take offense to people or we get so defensive and we
Triggered
don't know
or.
why.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And we
Mm-hmm.
don't know why. And once you start the healing journey, you're like, oh, well, I need to be comfortable within myself. I need to find comfort in and trust what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And so it was the fear of needing validation from others. And through therapy, I've been able to learn that about myself and realize that I never needed that from anybody anyway.
Mm-hmm.
You
Well,
know what I mean?
that's part of the journey is like none of us do.
Yeah.
But we don't
Yeah.
realize it at the time just because of all the layers of things that we've experiences, limiting beliefs, right? Conditionings, things like that. It's like we that's how we seek for things, that's how we're taught at such a
Exactly.
young age. And it
Yeah.
molds us and it sticks with us until adulthood too, until we start
It,
doing some of that work.
it's so crazy that it sticks with us into adulthood. Even being a parent and changing a lot of the things that I
Oh,
did
yeah.
prior to healing, those things still stuck with me. And it wasn't until very recently that going through therapy that I learned that a lot of the connections of some of the feelings that I feel or lack of feelings is due to childhood
Mm-hmm.
traumas and things like that. So being able to make those connections and
Mm.
understand um, some of them have made it easier to heal, even like
Yeah, that
physically,
insight.
because a lot of my anxiety was from physical symptoms
Mm-hmm.
because my heart would race or like I would
Mm-hmm.
feel some type of way and then I would start panicking. So mine
Mm-hmm.
kind of went backwards. Um, but now learning this most recent exercise that I did in therapy, and I'm an open book when it comes to it because I feel like the only way I was a person who was like, therapy will never help me. I've been to counselors my entire life. I know what to say to them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need therapy. So when I speak about it, it's to let others know that if you're unsure about therapy, give it a try because maybe it just wasn't the time when you first tried it and try it
Right.
again. Or
Right.
maybe it
It
wasn't
wasn't meant
the right
to.
therapist.
That
Yeah, or
too.
maybe it wasn't the
Exactly.
right therapist or whatever it was. But like, so recently, I've started therapy probably for a year now. I've been in therapy and, you know, it's a buildup
Mm-hmm.
because it all depends on how much you're willing to share. It all depends on how much you're
Exactly.
willing to give. Um, and it always comes back to you and what you're doing, right? Or how you feel. And so for the first six, 6 months or so, it's been just getting me out of fight flight mode. That's what I
Mm-hmm.
learned was that I was just in survival mode
Oh my
for the
gosh, yeah.
past like 3 to 4 years, nonstop.
And not
So
even knowing it, right? Because I feel
not
like
even
a lot
knowing
of
it.
us as mothers, especially, go through it like for years and years and years, not even realizing it until
For
all of a
sure.
sudden, something maybe like awakens you to something, and then you're like, oh my God, maybe that's me, you know?
Exactly. Like I had no idea that there was a name for it, had no idea that it was a
Mm-hmm.
thing until we started therapy. And
Mm-hmm.
I was lucky to find a team where I had a primary care provider who understood the mental health importance. And she's like, I think a lot of what you're going through is mental health. Let's get you into therapy. And so
Mm-hmm.
she recommended a therapist, and I was so lucky to have found her, because she didn't push me to do things in a way that made me uncomfortable. She just has conversations with me, and she'll ask a question, and then it like unravels this thread or
Oh,
knot in my
wow.
head. And it's just so crazy
It's
because it's just
powerful,
very
right?
natural.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so this last most recent exercise, she had me write a letter to my younger self,
Mm-hmm.
because we made a connection where it's like a lot of the physical things that I feel is because my nervous self from when I was a kid is still in there and still needed some type of
Activated.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I wrote a letter to
Tension.
myself. And in that letter, it was so funny because she had asked me to do it, and I was like, um, I don't
You're hesitant.
know. Like, yeah. And so it was, I was trying to not think about it. And one day my daughter was washing dishes, and we had music playing because we were doing fly lady cleaning, which is like 10 minutes and you just clean up. But
Oh,
anyway,
cool.
so I was just kind of sitting there, and I saw my notebook, and I was like, I'm just gonna fucking do it. So I'm sorry. So
It's
I just
okay.
sat down.
Don't worry.
So I just sat down and I started writing. I just started writing, and I don't remember what I was writing.
Uh-huh.
I just kind of wrote it, closed the notebook, put it away. And my therapy was, this was what happened on a Saturday. My therapy appointment wasn't until Thursday. I went all those days without even like thinking about
Looking
it,
at it. Oh.
looking at it, but I noticed I wasn't as anxious as I typically am. Just daily, I would feel uncomfortable, and I
Uh-huh.
hadn't felt it.
Yeah.
And so when I had therapy on Thursday, we started our conversation, and I was like, "Oh, I wrote my letter." And she's like, "Okay." And so I was like, "Do you want me to read it to you?" She's like, "Yeah." And so I start reading it. I didn't even remember what was in there, and like 3 sentences in, I'm bawling
Oh my God, I know. I can
because
imagine.
my first, and I'll share with you guys. My first line in it was, "You were not a burden. You're not a
Mm.
burden now, and you weren't a burden then."
Mm.
And it's basically just thanking my younger self for keeping me alive, and apologizing that it's unfortunate that she had to learn those survival skills before she learned or can remember joy and happiness.
Yeah.
And, you know, I always
Yeah.
felt loved. I always felt um, cared for. I felt those things, but it was just so chaotic all the time coming from a
Mm-hmm.
divorced parents. You know, my dad was in one state, my mom was in another. So there was a lot of just things that I went through. But once I wrote that letter and I read it to her, I cried a lot for like a second, and then I was like, okay. And since then, it's been a week. Yeah, we're going on another. This next Thursday will be another week. So it's only been a week, and I feel just so much lighter.
Mm-hmm.
So, for
That's
anyone
wonderful.
who's listening, anyone who's listening who is not sure of therapy, maybe try that exercise, writing to your younger self, because it might just help you make a connection where you're like, oh, okay, and it
Mm-hmm.
settles your nervous system.
Yeah.
Um, because it's just crazy how it's all connected. And
Or how
one
emotions come up, which you didn't know were there, and they just, you're like, oh, and you're writing it, you just start to experience certain emotions or feelings that come up.
exactly. And like you don't even know why. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's just crazy. But
Right.
one book that my therapist did have me read early on because she knew I was kind of not against therapy, but just kind of was like meh. Is The Body Keeps Score.
Mm-hmm.
It's an excellent book because it really shows and discusses how your brain, your nervous system remembers traumatic events. It remembers
Right.
the sensations. I mean, even
Exactly.
if you have something happen and you can remember the smell and you smell a
Mm-hmm.
scent and you're like, it takes you right back to it.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're having these things from when you're a kid and you're an adult and you've avoided it this entire time and you don't understand, well, when I smell that, I feel this type of way.
Right.
It's
The
those are actual
trigger.
triggers. I know like we overuse the word, social media society overuses the terms of triggers, but that is a true trigger. And that is something that your body is trying to let you know, like, hey, this happened around this time, or, it's
Information.
trying
It's
to,
trying to send you information like cues, like
yes,
little breadcrumbs.
exactly. And if you can acknowledge it and feel it and
Mm-hmm.
process it the way that you couldn't whenever the time was that it happened, then that helps you take
Yeah.
another step towards feeling better, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's very important to do that. And before, again, a year ago, I'd have been like, nah, I'm good.
I'm okay. But it kind of
I'm
brings you
fine.
back to like, well, when it all first started, like you shared, when you were pregnant with your daughter, like you had already planted that seed in your head that you
Yeah,
wanted to do things differently.
differently.
Like you already had
Exactly.
put that intention out there. I think that in itself is powerful. It's like, whoever, yourself or whoever listening has their belief in a higher power, you're like sending that message out there like, hey, universe, hey, God, hey, creator, whomever, like, I want to do things differently. And it's like, for me, I believe it's like that's that prayer that you're sending out. Okay, this is what I want. I want to do. Okay, then you want to do this differently? Okay, then let's start. You know what I mean? And then it
Yes.
just kind of unfolds with time, little by little, right? But you put that intention and you put that prayer out into the world, and that also was like your starting point, like your journey, right? And then, so how old were you when you had your daughter?
So I was 26 when I had my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like I was a pretty good age. I honestly didn't really ever think I wanted kids
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't want to repeat a cycle.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime, I think even at 26, I wasn't ready to be a mom.
Mm-hmm.
But anytime before that, I was way worse.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because I dealt with my stuff through alcohol. Like that
Mm-hmm.
was my comfort. And I
You're
wasn't
coping.
drinking every day. I wasn't drinking all day every day. I was drinking one day a week, but in that one day, I
Mm-hmm.
would make up for like all the other days.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just a release, right, all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't a healthy way to do it. Um,
Was that something you were aware of already, like that behavior, that pattern, or no, not
no,
really?
I think because of our culture and like growing up here on the border city where like we started drinking when we were like 14 or 15, like going
Yeah. What
to
is?
Juarez. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
like I would get dropped off at school or I would drive myself to school and then we'd pick everybody up from school and then we'd go across the border. So
Yeah.
like by 8, 9 o'clock, we're already in another country drinking,
Uh-huh.
having parties.
Exactly.
So like it wasn't out of the norm. It wasn't
That's true.
something bad. It was
Something
normal
you just
that
did out to party back then, right? But we
yeah,
didn't
you
know
just
that
had fun.
underneath we were just, yeah, that's so
Yeah,
true.
exactly. And so like it wasn't anything that I saw was a problem. It was like,
Mm-hmm.
it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of just how I saw it. So I mean, I didn't really stop drinking until I had gotten COVID. So like 2021 or 20, I got it in like
Mm-hmm.
right when it started, I got it that first round. And I had stopped drinking then. Um, so it's been a few years that I haven't drank and I don't miss it. I don't. sometimes I really just want to have a drink to like relax because I
Mm-hmm.
know I'm in a different headspace.
Mm-hmm.
But it's because I've been in survival mode for so long that I don't even know how to enjoy things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so for me, that's a memory of having fun. Even
Oh,
though
okay, yeah.
sometimes it would
That's what it
get chaotic,
associates with.
it
Yeah.
associates with fun, with people having a good time, with things like that. And so, um, yeah, it's kind of crazy, but yeah, so like the drinking, it wasn't anything
Right.
abnormal. It was a totally normal thing. And so, oh, I was 26 when I had her, and just at that time, I mean, I would still go party. I would still, my mom would watch her afterwards because turns out postpartum depression is a thing. And I had no idea
But you
because,
had it.
again, back then, I mean, this is only 19 years ago. It wasn't talked about back then. It
Yeah.
might have
I
barely been started.
agree.
It might have
Yeah.
barely been started. There was baby blues. So like
Uh-huh.
with my daughter, I didn't have an instant connection with her. I was sick my entire pregnancy. It turned out I ended up having appendicitis the entire time I was pregnant with her.
Oh
We
my
didn't
gosh.
find out until literally a month to the day after I had her. I had to get my appendix taken out, like an emergency. Yeah.
Oh wow.
So like after I had her, I didn't feel that instant connection. It was very much of I just didn't have it. It was just kind of
Mm-hmm.
like ugh. Because again,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want kids. I didn't feel like I was gonna be able to be a parent.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I had her and didn't have that instant connection, it was very difficult. It wasn't until a time where she like okay, so having anxiety and panic attack and always being in survival mode, I always think worst case scenario anyway.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So when you become a parent, that from my base, what it
It
was like
amplifies.
100. This was like
It amplifies once you
300.
become a mom.
Oh my God,
Yes.
the most crazy thing. So I never even gave myself a chance to connect with her because I was so worried about keeping
Oh
her
yeah.
safe, keeping her
Mm-hmm.
protected, keeping I didn't take that poor
Mm-hmm.
child into a store until she was like 2 years old. I
Mm-hmm.
would cover her if I had to take her.
Mm-hmm.
I would cover her car seat with like 4 blankets so that people, if they lifted one, because people seem to think that it's okay to just go and look at and touch
Mm-hmm.
your baby.
Mm-hmm.
So like if I had to take her, I would, but it was probably like she was a year or two old before I
Mm-hmm.
would take her anywhere. My
Yeah.
mom, my husband was overseas when I had my daughter, so it was my mom and I
Oh,
really raising my daughter.
my
And so
daughter.
my mom was more the one who would take her out.
Mm.
And it wasn't until um she I had a really high bed and I had lined up my shoes the night before for I don't know what reason. But I had let her fall asleep on my bed and she fell off the bed while I wasn't in the room. And it's a pretty high fall that she had. And I heard her cry like a crazy scream and I ran in.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw her and her head just happened to land in between the shoes.
Oh
Had
wow.
it not, she would have
Oh
landed
my
straight
gosh.
like tile. And
Oh.
so like that moment when I picked her up and I hugged her and we like made eye contact,
Mm. That was that
my
moment.
heart melted. It was like
Oh.
guilt. It was like guilt for how
Oh.
could I not have felt this from the beginning? You
Mm.
know, it was just a very
Oh.
weird thing.
It was like
And
eye opening too at the same time. It was,
for sure,
yeah.
like I allowed myself to be open. And
Oh.
another thing in therapy that I'm learning is that I hold boundaries up so high for
Mm.
the people who I love the most because
Mm-hmm.
I'm protecting myself
Mm-hmm.
from the heartache because I
I can
can't.
relate to that too. I can
You
definitely
know,
relate to that. Yeah.
you can't. You just. I need to
Was
be
from
in
whatever
control
the
of this.
past experiences that you had. It's like your way of your younger self, which turned into this today's right
Yes,
behavior of protection.
protection and
Yeah,
protecting myself, even from the people that love me unconditionally. Like I'm
exactly.
still, it's and that's uh like that just happened right now on your podcast that I made that connection. Like
Oh,
it is. It's just, yeah,
yeah.
it's
That's
crazy.
awesome that when we talk about it, right? Like not just your
Yeah.
therapy, but through your own podcast, which is what I've shared before in a previous
Yeah.
episode, is like when I am coming on, it's also my way of therapy of speaking out. It's like my journaling, right? You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
when we have these conversations, maybe not just by ourselves, but to our listeners or coming onto podcasts or whatever. Um, yeah, we make or books that you feel connected to, right?
Right.
Listening to other podcasts that you're connected to. Yeah, that's when you can make those huge connections that like, oh my gosh, like wow. And it's really cool when that happens because you're like,
Yeah.
oh,
You're
that's
like,
so
oh,
beautiful too
like
at
you
the same
probably saw like
time.
that light bulb just go on over
Yeah.
my head and it happened like, oh,
Ding ding.
okay,
Yeah.
it's
Switch.
even it's even to this. And you're right. And it's funny because when
Uh-huh.
I was talking to my therapist about the podcast and everything and we're discussing it, and I told her, like when I'm filming my podcast, sometimes I'm not aware of what I'm saying. It's kind of like when I'm writing the letter to myself, right? You just kind of throw yourself into
Mm-hmm.
it. So it's not until after that I am cutting clips for it or anything like that, I hear myself and I'm like, oh. And so you process that secondary. And so I was
Mm-hmm.
telling her, she's like,
And it
well, that's,
repeats. Like you repeat it
yeah,
after you say, you're like, oh, wait a minute. And then you repeat what you
exactly.
just said because you're like, hey, I just made this connection.
Exactly. And then she's like, that's a
Yeah.
form of therapy. She's like, a form of therapy that we use is sometimes we'll have people record themselves
Um,
and go back and listen to it because it helps them to do it. She's like, so basically you're kind of
doing
doing
that.
a form of therapy in the podcast.
Yeah.
So I'm like, yeah, because there'll be sometimes I'm on the podcast and I'll start crying because I make a connection and I'm like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
okay. And so,
Exactly. That part of your younger self is like being heard or seen or
yeah,
felt, which is
that,
like what you're doing too. Like a lot of us listening, like our age, and most of the listeners are in this age group in our 40s, um, maybe some late 30s. But that's something I feel a lot of us are doing, like you said, just because of the rise of social media, and how maybe healing can be a trendy word, right, in itself too. But
exactly.
I feel like it's something that, yeah, maybe a lot of us are bringing more awareness to and having more of these conversations that it stems mostly, most of the time, it stems from our childhood, right?
Yeah.
Of course, there are some of those experiences we've had, maybe as an adult or young adult, traumatic in episodes or experiences that we've had, but also a lot of it does stem from our early childhood that
Yeah,
we don't realize up until well, whether you're faced with some kind of a message on your Instagram or whatever.
exactly.
And I feel like a lot of us are doing a lot of that inner healing or inner child or just healing work in itself and making those connections as to how we're as an adult, as a mom, and how that relates to our younger selves. It's really
Yeah,
interesting.
for sure. And like, so going back, because I know I kind of went off a little bit, but when I became a mom, it was like, okay, how can I do things differently? So I started to try and do things differently in a way where I didn't know there was words to it. I didn't know there was things. I just knew there was certain things that I was going to do differently.
Mm-hmm.
And it was more so about speaking truth to my daughter. Like, if I'm not okay, I'm going to let her know, even if she's 3 years old. Like, mommy's having a hard day. Like, let's take a time out. Let's go. So I would put a movie on for her. I feel like as mothers, um, and I'll speak on this a little bit because I am a person who is a mom of older kids now, and I've seen a lot of changes happening in parenting with younger mothers. Um, and I feel like we have such an attachment to our children, they become our whole everything.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't, and I think it is again stems from our childhood selves.
Mm-hmm.
There's just this attachment to not let them go, not
Mm-hmm.
give them freedom, not,
Mm-hmm.
and we put
Like a
our stuff
control.
onto them. Yeah, for sure. We put our stuff onto them, and so we hold them back because we're putting our baggage,
Mm-hmm.
we're instilling it in them.
Yeah.
So I feel like
Yeah.
that's why that's why I think
Yes.
kids now like are so anxious. They're kids who are depressed, and they're young kids, and I'm like, wait, hang on a second. Like, so I feel like
Yeah.
as mothers, we need to make a separation where we're a mother first.
Like boundaries.
We're boundaries, exactly. We're a mother first. We're not your best friend. We're here to parent. We can be friendly, but when it comes down to it, my role as a mother is to take care of you and is to teach you, so that when I'm not around, when I'm not here,
Yeah, you're there as
when
a
you're on your
guide.
own, you are able to take care of yourself. And
Yeah.
so I feel like I see it so much, on, I don't go on Facebook too much, but I follow a lot of mom groups and a lot of spouse groups and things like that. And I really feel like that message has kind of been blurred, where it's a negative thing if you want space from your kid. And I don't think that it's a negative thing. I think it's important to have your kids be able to self-soothe, to
Yeah,
be
for
able to
sure.
feel their emotions, to be able to do these things, and then you go in as a parent and you say, ask them, are you okay? Or this is what happened. Explain to them what's happening.
Right.
Because so many times they fall and you want to go pick them right up.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you want to make sure that they're okay. And if you
Yeah.
just let them kind of sit with it for a moment, and this might be a little bit of old school parenting as well, because we used to fall off of like those high ass jungle gyms, and everybody would just kind of look.
Right?
Everybody would just
That's
kind
so
of turn
true.
and look and be like, or like we'd burn ourselves on the metal slides, and everybody would
Yeah.
just kind of look at us like, give a moment, and
Time.
then really see what the reaction is. And I feel like that a little bit of that needs to come back.
That is
Where
interesting. That is so interesting. Yeah. Now that you're bringing that light to it, it's like, is it like a thing where maybe people or moms or whoever are doing not quote unquote too much healing, but they're like really immersed in it,
yes,
that like they're really wanting to maybe, and I'm also going to speak from personal experience too. It's like we're walking like this like on eggshells. We're like, you're wanting them to so badly not go down that similar path of habits or patterns or things that you've had and picked up. And so like, it's like a protection, right? But that it's like also like kind of like overprotecting or over controlling, where we're not actually giving them that space to be their own selves and let them like learn from themselves, from their own mistakes. Instead, we're trying to prevent it. And of course, you know what you got to do, what you got to do to prevent something, obviously, right? We use our instincts. But at the same time, it's like they got to learn too at the same time, you know? So I can totally see that. And I'm reminded of like my girls when they're like walking outside and there's rocks, these boulder rocks. Well, they're not boulder rocks, but they're like big, I don't know, how do you call
like
them?
those river
Walks,
type.
yeah. And they walk on them barefoot sometimes, or with their little Crocs. And then they're just like wobbly, all, do. And then, well, they're heavy, hard rocks. And you're like, oh, what if they fall and hit their head on the rock and da da da. But they're so quick to catching themselves with their hands. And so you stand back to be like, you have those initial thoughts of like fear, and these fearful thoughts and worryful thoughts come in. But then you're like, okay, just stand back, let them walk it through it, let them experience it. Because how else are they going to experience things and create their sense of confidence and their own intuition, their own strengths, right? Unless they go out there and experience for themselves, right? How are they going to learn unless they don't learn on their own for themselves? And for us, not doing it for them or preventing it.
It's building that
Skills.
confidence with them. It's building that confidence within themselves, right? Like, because if we're always there to pick them up, they're not going to learn that.
They're not going to have that over time.
And we might see it as we're protecting them, but they might see it as she doesn't trust me, so I can't trust myself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like,
yeah.
So
sure.
it's important that we, as mothers, as parents, as guides, we really show them that it's okay to trust yourself. It's okay if things go bad. It's how you recover. It's how your mindset is starting to, my mindset was survival mode from the get-go.
Yes, which affects your emotions and how you feel and manifests in those physical symptoms.
Exactly, because I didn't feel emotions for so long because I was just in survival mode, just trying to survive. So with us as parents, we need to make sure that we're not putting our shit on our kids, and that we're letting them have their own experiences
Mhm.
without, and
Mhm.
are bad things going to happen? Possibly,
Mhm.
but we need to be there for them when it does, and they need
Mhm.
to be there to learn, because we're
Mhm.
not
Part of
always
letting
going to
go.
be around. It's part of
Yeah.
letting go. And for me,
Exactly.
like I've told my therapist and I've said several times on my show, I will go through the pain and through everything that I've felt a million times over if it means that my child is going to be mentally and emotionally strong
And
and
healthy.
not where
Yeah.
I was. Yeah, because
Mhm.
when we're putting these boundaries on our kids, or when we're parenting them in a way where we're holding them back, kind of in a way,
Mhm.
um, like I'll just say this. So like
Codependent, right? Is that
codependent,
mhm.
exactly. Yeah, like I see these posts a lot, and it's like I need my kid sleeps with like a low something light, brown noise, not black, not white noise, like all of these things, and it's like, dude, like
How are they going to
it,
sleep to the without it
yeah, like like with
one
me,
day?
with
Yeah.
my kids, it was like I had a noisy house. Like if
Mm.
they're gonna sleep, you let them sleep and learn to sleep in a noisy house,
Right.
because then
Yeah.
you're modifying your whole day
Right.
to make sure that the kid sleeps. Like after I
Yeah.
had my son, it was like my daughter would be noisy, and my son was a terrible sleeper.
Uh-huh.
So, it's just those things where, like, as
Exactly.
parents, we need to, and I'm all for being a helicopter parent. I am like the epitome of a helicopter parent. I will let my kid go as far as they need to go, but I will be right above hovering in case shit does go down. I'm
Right.
there.
It'd be
But
there for them.
I'm letting them push their boundaries by themselves,
On
and
their own, making their own
yeah,
choices. Yeah.
exactly. And they know that I will be there for them.
Yeah, just letting them know, I think like educating them a little bit
Yes,
beforehand, right? And then letting them know like I'm here for you
yes,
afterward, right? Yeah.
yeah,
And which
for
is probably
sure.
something like we didn't have as we were growing up, right? Which is kind of how you're doing things differently too, right? Is like you're being there for your kids, you're having these conversations with them, you're letting them know how you feel. And then they're seeing that too like in your life. Like they're seeing that through the changes that you're creating for yourself and how you're doing the work, right? Doing the work to bust the myths, the stigma on mental health, like doing your own inner healing work so you can bring yourself back to more joy and peace again so they
Yeah,
can,
so I
right?
can
So
enjoy it. Yeah, because
yeah.
I feel like this whole time I've been in just teach mode, teach, 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 and it
Because you
hasn't
said
been
you homeschooled your kids, right? That's like what you shared with
yeah.
me
So
this time.
I did homeschool my kids, and I made that decision in a way because I was volunteering at the schools. And very early on, I did notice with my daughter, even though I was doing things differently, my daughter had anxiety.
Mm.
She had panic attacks. I think one time, maybe 4 years old, she just was freaking out, like a cry that was like, what the heck is going
Mm.
on? And me and my mom put her in a bath. Like we couldn't figure it out. And then that was when I started doing a lot more research for I mean, there wasn't a lot, but that mental health, there is a genetic aspect to it, right? And so just seeing her have that panic, whatever it was, um, because I took her to the doctor, she was fine. There was nothing wrong. It was just she was frightened by something.
Mm.
And so after seeing that, my purpose, one of them was, okay, I got to make sure that this doesn't happen, or if it does, that she knows that she's going to be okay. So that was at 4. Then when she started in school, I noticed she started getting anxious and panicked. And it was one of those things that I saw myself in.
Mm-hmm.
And I just didn't agree also with like the schooling. It was very
Yeah.
much revolving around the STAR test.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't so much learning. And so I just really took it upon myself to say, I'm going to do it. If I'm going to do things differently, I'm going to do things differently.
Mm-hmm.
And so I made the choice to homeschool.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a popular choice because in 2010, maybe 11, there was not a lot of homeschool options. It wasn't a popular thing.
Mhm.
And there was conflict within my family, just basically saying, like, why would you do that? They need
Oh,
to be
yeah. Like the
socialized.
beliefs that they have about, aren't
Kids
you
need
worried
to
about this? And aren't you worried about
kids need
that?
to be
And yes.
socialized. You were a terrible student. How are you going to be able
Yeah.
to teach your
Yeah.
kids, and things like that? And so I went a more non-traditional homeschool way, which
Mm-hmm.
I did online public school.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little bit freer. They still do take the STAR test, but it's not the main focus.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just a lot of that. So
It worked
I
out for
did
you
that.
guys. Yeah.
It did, and I did that for a couple of years, and then I finally learned what I wanted them to learn. So my kids are very good with like life skills,
Mm.
things like that. Chemistry, not so much. Things like that, not so much. But they can like survive.
Yeah, like it's life skills that we're not taught
Life
in
skills,
other
like
words.
they can balance a
That's
checkbook. They
awesome.
can they can
Yeah,
cook
budgeting,
dinner.
cooking. That's
They
amazing life skills because there's a lot of
they
kids out there that they don't know how to cook. They don't, or their parents don't teach them how to cook, or
yeah,
even just the basic things, you know?
and they read, they do all of the things kids do, but
Mm-hmm.
like my daughter is a 19-year-old who has her own business.
That's so
We
awesome.
focus a lot on themselves,
And that helps
on
with their
again,
confidence too. Like that's a
yeah,
big time confidence.
exactly.
Like they have this belief, like they build this belief early on in age, like they can do something, like I can do this, you know? And
Because
that's
it's
really
and it's not
powerful.
and it's not like I was one of the parents who was like everybody deserves a trophy. Like, no, I let my kids know, look, expectations are important. You need to set expectations for yourself. You need to set because
Mm-hmm.
it is an important thing to have. So it's a thing where I really focus on expectations, on executing assignments, on focusing on their creativity, how they learn, because
Mm-hmm.
they're two separate kids. They learn completely differently. My
Mm-hmm.
son has dyslexia and dysgraphia. So like there's a lot of things that as a parent who homeschools, you get to learn your kid a lot more than when your kid is in public school.
Yeah.
And the very first time I really started to understand how lucky we were that I started homeschooling was during pandemic when parents could not deal with their kids being at home. That was like when the fuck them kids came out and all of these things, and I'm like, you're raising them. They're yours. And if you can't handle being around them, then there is a deeper type of it's
It's a you problem.
it's a
It's
you
something
thing,
deeper.
yeah. And
Yeah.
and so for me, just family and raising my kids, the way that I chose to do it was in a way where it was not gentle parenting, gentle-ish. I'll say gentle-ish parenting because I've never spanked my kids. The one
Mm-hmm.
time I tried, I like fell over a couch
Mm-hmm.
and like hurt myself. You know what I mean? Like it was
Mm-hmm.
very much so timeouts,
Yeah.
consequences. Even with my son now, he's 16. It's like, okay, well, he's incentive driven. So, all right,
Mm-hmm.
well, you're not going to get allowance unless this is done. So it's figuring out your
Oh,
kids,
yeah. How they're gonna
well,
respond
and
better
how they're
to
going to respond.
behavior and
Because
consequences.
because as
Yes.
parents, we try to do the same thing for everybody across the
Or
board,
what
and
they
that's
quote
not how
unquote
it is.
tell you to do it, right? All like whatever that
And
is so true.
it's about taking the time and knowing
To
that
get
your
to know
kids are
them.
individuals and that they're gonna be okay regardless. If you feel like you're messing up or you
Mm-hmm.
feel like you're not doing something, like they're gonna be okay. I see so many posts again of moms being like, you know, I need to have this extravagant first birthday party, and it's like, why? They're not gonna remember it. Like, save
I feel like they're gonna have a much more work and headache and stress just putting all that into
we put
it.
so
So
much of that on ourselves as
pressure,
mothers,
the
though. So much of
pressure.
that pressure. Like,
Yes.
why? We don't need to do that. Like, your kids are gonna be okay. They're gonna be
Mm-hmm.
fine. I promise. My kids didn't. My daughter had the big one, a big first birthday party, and then after that,
Yeah.
I think they might have had like 3 or 4 birthday
Mm-hmm.
like big parties. Other than
My
that,
son hasn't had
we
a big birthday party yet, and he's 7. We only have little
yeah, like
small family things because I know how he is, and he's like all these people around.
yeah, right. So that's the same. And so like, plus you can give them their you can use that money for taking them on a trip or doing things like
Trips.
that.
Yeah.
So
Something that they really truly enjoy,
enjoy,
that they
yeah. And
really
so like
want. Yeah.
one piece of advice that I feel like, because I know our time here, but like what I really do want to say is, look, as mothers, we go through so much stuff already from
Mm-hmm.
just childhood. Being a mom and putting additional stuff on ourselves is not fair to ourselves, and it doesn't get anything fixed. It just makes more problems. So the more that we can internalize,
Mm-hmm.
process, feel, and separate those things from being a mother, you'll start to see that it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay
Yeah.
to not be perfect. It's okay.
Yes.
And life isn't going to stop. It's not going to, like, you're going to be fine. But at least give yourself peace of mind that, like, all right, I got this. It's okay. I
Mm-hmm.
don't have to have it, because we get so
All figured
in,
out. Yeah,
yeah.
that's where it
And then
comes
like
in and it affects our mental
Instagram,
health.
Facebook,
Exactly. Yeah,
you see all of these,
comparison, comparing
yeah,
yourself to other maybe unrealistic standards of someone else's lifestyle or the way that they do
exactly.
things, and then it's a reminding or a reminder to yourself, like, you don't have to be comparing yourself to
You,
X, Y, and Z, so and so. That's not your life. This is your life, and
this
what
is your life.
works better for you and for your family. What do you believe? What are your values, right? Coming back to your own values and what matters
Exactly.
most to you, and that's
And
how
just
we do
figuring
it.
that out.
Exactly. Yeah. Along the
And
way. Yeah. I
along the
know.
just figuring it out, and like, trust me, you will bring your stress level down so much
Yes.
just from
Yes.
those external validations that you feel you need. Like,
I
that is
agree.
one thing, like, I will say, as a kid in survival mode, maybe it's that I was an only child for so long, because my brother and I are 15 years apart, 14 or
Oh.
15 years apart. So I grew up as an only child, um, with my little cousins, right? And so for me, that was one thing. Being a kid in survival mode, I was by myself and alone a lot.
Mm.
Even though there was people around me, I was focused on me. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
care what was going on around me so much, because I was just trying to survive,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's one thing that I also will give credit to my younger self for, is that as I got older, I didn't feel the need to compare myself to other people,
Mm.
because, I didn't see that they were, I don't know, maybe it's one of these things where, like, I'm just hyper vigilant and hyper observant of people. And you can see the unhappiness and the stress that
Mm.
all that brings. And it was
You
something
can
that
see
I
their
was like,
energy. Mm-hmm.
yeah, something was like, nah, I'm good, man.
I
Like,
don't want
I
that. I
already,
don't need
I already
that.
stress myself way more than anything. I don't need that additional
Yeah.
pressure. So if anything you get from me today, it's that, look, as mothers, as parents, we're gonna screw up, and the only thing that we can do is be honest with our kids, honest with ourselves, and let them know that shit happens, but it's how
Mm-hmm.
you come back from it. And
Yeah.
it's about building your children up with that confidence, and not that false confidence where, like, mijo, you're great at everything. No,
Mm-hmm.
it's, look, you're good at
From their
this, but
experiences.
from their
Yeah.
experiences. Exactly.
Yes,
And then
exactly.
just being true to yourself, and just knowing what your limits are, and pushing past the ones that are realistic to push past,
Mm-hmm.
but not overextending yourself, because then that just leads to burnout.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I totally relate to that. And that, until I realized like how I was in super survival mode with my girls, and started
Oh,
doing a
for
lot
sure.
more work and more freedom for myself and more boundaries, asking for help more, and just not having all those expectations like I did for my son when it was just him. It's totally different. It let go of a lot of unnecessary stress that I was putting on myself, in addition to everything else that I was putting pressure on myself, the podcast, lots of other things, starting a
Yeah.
business, and it's a lot. Which brings me to my next question now that we're talking about that. So how, maybe you can tell us about like how, um, when you built your business, like when you first built your business, and then also at the same time dealing with the anxiety or the depression, like how do you feel like you did that, or what did that teach you about yourself, like when you realized?
So for all of that, I give total credit to my survival mode and to my panic mode, because it's like a superpower to get you hyper focused and hyper driven on
To
things. And it gives you the ability to
get
make
it
things
done.
happen in the most messed up circumstances that you can imagine. Like, I had an idea and I didn't know how I was going to get there, but I was doing everything I could to make sure that I got to that end game. And it was really what helped me to kind of survive and get out of like the depression that I was in.
Mm-hmm.
Because having the anxiety led to depression. Because I couldn't get up to go check my mailbox. I wouldn't step outside. I was so scared. Like, there were so many things that I had just been afraid of and built myself in a little box. And so building this business was the thing that had me get up, not out of bed, but I was able to get up and I was able to get the laptop and I was able to do the courses that I needed to do and set little goals for myself. And it just kind of helped me to grow.
That was part of your
And
healing journey too, right?
it was the beginning of it. Yeah. And I didn't even really know that or realize that until recently, again, going through therapy and learning that that was my purpose. My purpose
At
was
that
to
time.
get this business off the ground. Yeah.
Mhm.
And it was what I focused on. And so I did that. And again, I credit the survival mode because
Yeah.
it gives you just a different way of thinking,
Mm-hmm.
very unconventional ways of
Oh,
creating
yeah.
a business.
Exactly.
Instead of going A, B, and C, I might go like Z,
You're
B,
able to use
like
more of your own mind, your own creativity, right? And from your own
exactly,
self,
exactly.
your own ideas and thoughts too, which I'm sure also changes and shifts some things in terms of like how we feel or think about ourselves. Because without knowing it, you're like, oh, I did this. It may not be like consciously, you're not like consciously thinking, look at what I created. Maybe at some point you did, but
It
it's
was
like,
just recently that
yeah.
I was able to do that. Like, oh
Right?
shit.
Because it's not
Oh, okay.
acknowledged during that time, right? You're just like you said,
You just
you had that idea, you wanted to do it, and that's what helped you to, you kept tackling at it, even though, and it also helped you with like, yeah, that anxiety, like, and then kind of like you said, it was like that, the survival mode that kind of helped you to push through that, right? Which is like in a sense too, like that's how a lot of us push through the day, and as moms, right? Is like we have no choice, but it's that survival mode. So what it has, it's like, I mean, I guess you could say, right? Like it's pros and it's cons to
it
helping us
does.
survive in life to do things. I kind of think of perfectionism the same way. Like perfectionism can help us in a way where like help you get it done the way you want it to get done and you're proud of it or anything like that. But on the other hand, if we focus on it too much, kind of like I'm relating to my own personal experiences here, it can harm us at the same time mentally and emotionally, right? So I feel like it's kind of like in a similar concept, right? Is like it's helping you to get this created. And wow, what you did. So what was that point when you, because this also reminds me of like people come into our lives at a certain point when we need them, or like a certain opportunity, maybe like a job opportunity or something, whatever, something all of a sudden comes into your life or to your lap and you don't really realize it, but it's meant to at that time and that purpose, which is kind of sounds like your business at that time, right? And then now that you're shifting into a whole different area of like your passion and what you want to do, now it's become the podcast, right? So maybe you can tell us a little bit about how that was created and yeah, what helped you to start it.
Yeah, so I ended the business, the business part, the mixers, the bar, all of that, because it wasn't something that I needed anymore.
Mm.
And so I've just, my licenses all kind of expired at the same time. So rather than kind of continue with that, I just let it go. And I started focusing on the podcast and my other business venture. But the podcast really is where that's for me. The podcast is for me. It's for me to help others because I've always been a person who, because of the things I've gone through, I have a lot of empathy for people. I have a lot of care for people. Sometimes I feel like I care way more than they do, and that's been something that I've had to learn to kind of like, okay, they're not
Deal
ready for
with.
it yet,
Yeah.
then it's okay. But if I'm
Yeah.
creating this podcast and I'm creating an avenue where there's information, there's resources for somebody who may stumble upon the page, then that's what I'm going to be here for. So the podcast is really for me to help others to share my healing journey along the way, and just kind of get more eyes and ears on being okay with talking about mental health issues and mental awareness, and showing that not all people who are looking like they're okay are okay. They're all struggling, and it's just a matter of how we deal with it. And the way that you deal with it is going to depend on what you need and the healing that you need.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so,
Go.
yeah.
Sorry. Go ahead.
No. Yeah. And so that's really the main focus of the podcast, is just kind of showing people a different way. And I love your podcast. You know, I
Thank
would
you.
listen to it, and I listen to the meditations that you put out, because for me, meditations are what kind of quiet my mind. I mean, you'll see I have a headset on my other ear, and it's typically I have soft music, or I'll have a meditation just to quiet my brain so that I can focus.
Yeah.
And I appreciate your meditations because they're just so calming, and it's
Thank you.
a few minutes where you're just like, okay, cool. And I'll replay and replay and replay. But yeah, like, so you having your space,
Thank
and
you.
I just want to create a space where we are talking about issues, not only anxiety, depression, things like that, but like how everything is interconnected. So I talk about politics, I talk about the school districts, I talk about all of these other things, because everything affects your mental health. It's not just one thing. So I really try to focus and bring awareness and make connections to why is everybody so stressed out during the presidential elections, you know? Well, this is because all of these decisions that you're making, or that other people who turn out to vote more are going to make these decisions, and it's going to affect your life. And even though you did your part, whichever way you go, it's still going to affect you. And so just making connections is really important, and what I like to do in the podcast. And
spreading awareness and helping for people to have more light bulbs come up, right? More connections and consciousness, for sure. Yeah.
And just bringing a light as well on local politics and the importance of local politics. We get so distracted by the national that we forget, like, local politics is where you're directly impacted with your property taxes, with a lot of these ordinances, things that you're directly impacted with quickly.
That's true. Very true.
And so we really need to start focusing on that. But really, the podcast is about bringing awareness, talking about hard things in a way that is not overly complicated. I try to simplify because I am a simpleton. I am. I need things just. If you're looking for straight shooting, no fluff, that's how I live my life. I am the friend who, if you ask for advice, I'm not going to sugarcoat. I'm going to tell you exactly how it is, and that's how I run the podcast. I try to be as gentle as possible, but sometimes, as I said recently on my podcast, gentle can only get you so far. Sometimes you just need that push.
Yeah, for sure. Tell us the name of your podcast.
Yeah, so it's Talking About It with Ashley. And that's what we do. We just talk about the different topics. Sometimes I have guests on. Sometimes I'll focus on a specific topic that has been in my head, or that I've gotten a question about through listeners. And, you know, our episodes drop every Tuesday mornings. And, you know, we go live sometimes, you know, if they're around politics, the election season, all that. I went live a lot with speaking to local politicians, speaking to board members, people who were running for school boards. During May Mental Health Awareness Month, we went live. And I'm just really trying to build a community where we are helping bring awareness, and we're talking about things that people might not feel comfortable talking about. And just letting everyone know that it's all right to feel some type of way, but let's deal with those problems instead of packing them away and avoiding them.
Yeah, because then over time, definitely it impacts us. So what are some of those, like what kind of coping tools or practices any other ones that you have learned to help you navigate through any difficult emotions when the anxiety shows up? Or like, how would you describe how you respond to that now as opposed to before you started your healing?
So I'm still really in the midst of that. I'm in the early stages of it. I would say probably within the past 2 months is where I've really been out of like the survival mode.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's just about implementing some of these coping skills that the therapy is saying. So like the breathing.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go through the motions and I'll do the breathing, but I'm not really doing the breathing and I still feel the panic.
Mm-hmm.
But things that I used to do prior to getting like professional coping mechanisms, I would say, is, peppermint gum. I always have peppermint gum with me. It's something that, I use. Vicks. I will
Mm-hmm.
sometimes just get Vicks and put it like on the back of my ears and just kind of feel that cooling sensation.
Oh yeah,
Um,
your
for me
senses.
also,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, for me, I try doing the 5 4 3 2 1 thing, and I try really hard, but I'm still learning. So similar to the meditations, I never really have been able to just sit and meditate. I have to really work on it. So I'll put them on in my ear, and the longer I've been doing it, so listening to meditations has been about 2 years. Really within the past year or so is where I can tune in a little bit more to the meditation and I'll start to feel the calm and I'll
Mm-hmm.
start to feel it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's just really trying to put these things in practice.
Yes, practice.
Every I feel like
Keyword.
everybody has their own thing. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't know a lot of the things that I do. Alcohol swabs, I have alcohol swabs all the time. So like if I start feeling really overwhelmed, I'll just open one and just kind of put it like so I can
Mm-hmm.
feel the cooling sensation.
Mm-hmm.
But like these are things I used to do before, and I didn't know until my therapist said those are grounding techniques. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, so like your body knows what you need to do
Yes.
without having these terms.
It has that
So
wisdom.
it does, and
Mm-hmm.
so I wish I could give more coping information, but
That's
again,
super helpful.
I'm
No, that's
still in the
super
midst of
helpful.
it,
Those are
and
very
it's just
practical. Yeah.
and practicing it. It's just doing it. Like so, it's just
Mm-hmm.
really training your
Mm-hmm.
brain. Like everything else, just
Yes.
really training your brain. Like okay,
Yeah,
this okay. And I will say that
exactly.
I haven't needed it as much as making those connections as to why I feel a certain type of way. Making the connection is what's really helped me,
Mm-hmm.
more so than just kind of getting out of
Yeah.
that mode. Learning to sit with the feeling, and
Yes.
even
Those
just
are
now
also
on the
coping skills. Yeah.
yeah, even just now while we're on here, like I had to put my glasses on because I started to feel my eyes blur or whatever. So it's like, okay, just sit with it. You're
Mm-hmm.
safe. You're okay. You're talking
Mm-hmm.
about these things, and it's uncomfortable, but it's
Mm-hmm.
okay because we're gonna help people, and we're
Yes.
not in the same place that we were before when we were younger. We are okay. And so it's just reminding myself,
Mm-hmm.
telling myself that over and over, that is the
Yes.
main thing that has helped me to
Oh, yeah.
not necessarily try to like stop the feeling,
But just talk yourself through it, right? Yes,
talk yourself through
I
it,
talk to
feel
this
it.
a lot with my patients and my clients. Is something we talk a lot about is self talk. How are you, the way that you talk to yourself through the situation, through the experience of how you're feeling, because that's ultimately how it's going to make you feel in your body, right? So if we can tell ourselves something more like everything, you're going to be okay, or you're safe, or let's just sit down, or like whatever it is that you're telling yourself in that moment to help you feel supported and heard, right? And just, that will
Sure.
ultimately help you then to settle down. So, listen to the moms out there, like all of the listeners, like self talk is very powerful, and how you talk to yourself through these experiences. And with time, it's a practice too. It's just like any of those tools that you mentioned, the self talk is also a practice too, how we talk to ourselves. And
It
just want
is.
to, that's part of the journey too, for sure.
It is.
Yeah.
And you said something very important, which is how you talk to yourself is important. I get very frustrated with myself, and so I would get very matter of fact, like ugh, get very
Mm-hmm.
frustrated and annoyed. Like, why are you feeling like
Mm-hmm.
this? Like, you're safe. And so now I'm starting to be a little bit more kind to myself.
Mm-hmm.
We're safe. It's okay. I'm
The
not as
compassion.
gentle, but I'm just not a gentle person, I feel like, as it is. So my gentle might be harsh to somebody, but like for me, I'm okay. Like
Mm-hmm.
I have to say to myself very in logical terms, you're safe. You're okay. Your heart
Yeah.
rate is high because you're starting to stress out
Yes.
because you
Yeah.
think you're in trouble and you're not.
Yeah.
You're okay. We're
Yeah.
not where we were. And so just learning to speak to yourself,
In your own
and
way, right?
in
In
your
your
own
own
way.
words, in your own voice. That's what I always express to my clients too, and my patients is like,
Yeah,
make sure that when you're telling yourself something, the things that you want to hear is like what you would actually say and like from your own voice with your own words, not like this is what I'm saying, but it doesn't have to be what I'm recommending. Like make it yours, you know?
exactly. And I think that's so important. And it's funny because my therapist will tell me, how are you going to say it to somebody else? And like in the beginning, I used to really try to think about it like, well, how would I say it? But the way that I talk to people is just that way. Like, I
That's on
would
you.
say it the same way I'm saying it to myself. Like, and
Yeah.
it's not because I'm mean or anything. It's just, that's just how I speak. I'm just a person who speaks
Mhm.
very matter of fact. I speak
Mhm.
very from, I might not show that I'm excited. I might not show that I'm something, but I really do care about helping.
Yeah.
And so I hope that like the more people watch and tune in, they start to kind of get that from me where it's like she's that one friend who like I'm Capricorn too. So I don't know.
Mhm. Oh,
Like
okay.
I am very Capricorn. I feel like when I say that people kind of like, "Oh, okay, we get it." And that is just how I am. I'm very pragmatic, very logical, very matter of fact, and I feel like um being real is something that is very underrated. I feel like people say that they're real and they're not. They're posting these happy pictures when you know that they
Mm.
are not happy. Like and so I feel like just be real with yourself
Yeah,
first.
that's what I was just
And
gonna ask you. Uh-huh. Oh no, I was just gonna say, or if you want to finish whatever you were just saying, but like what you feel are some of the biggest myths that you wish people, like more people, that you wish more people understood, like about mental health, which is
for
kind of what you're
sure, and
talking about right now. Yeah.
it's that exactly. Like just be real within yourself. Be true to yourself. Everybody externally is going through their own thing. You cannot compare yourself. And so social media is fantastic. It's great. It's wonderful. I think there are so many tools that can be used for it. But it's been turned into this thing where it's like people living vicariously through others, people wanting their lives to be perfect, wanting these things. And so I feel just to find a balance between social media and your life, being real with yourself, being genuine. Um, I think that's a big one. I also think that mental health has this stigma around it where it's like you have to look disheveled and out of place to have a mental illness. And that's not the case. Oftentimes, I look way more polished when I'm feeling like crap than when I'm feeling good. So a lot of times it's those masks, right? We put those things on and
Mm-hmm.
it's something that like check in on your strong friends.
Yeah.
I've been that strong friend for a while and it's like we go through
Mm,
things too. And a lot
for
of times
sure.
we worry about the one friend who is just always seems to be on the verge of breaking down when we need to be checked on as well and just check in
Thank
on
you for
people.
sharing that.
It's
I
very
totally agree
important.
with that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just forgotten. We look for the person who looks the sickest and we want to help them
Mm-hmm.
rather than looking at the person who is within our own bodies sometimes
Yeah.
and we need to check in
Yeah.
with ourselves. We need to check in with that strong friend.
Mm-hmm.
And if somebody has been popping in your head recently, reach out to them. And I always put a little caveat on that. If it was a toxic relationship, if it was somebody who was not good for you, who brought unnecessary stress, if it was unhealthy, do not reach out to that person. But for in
Yeah.
general, if there's
Yeah.
somebody who is in your head, reach
Mm.
out to them. Quick text, hey, how are you? You've been kind of in my
Mm-hmm.
head because
Mm-hmm.
connection is important, but it's not
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
I feel like we need to get to a place where we're comfortable just being alone. And like
Mm.
before I had kids, before I was married, I used to go to the airport, and this was pre 9/11. I used to go to the airport and I'd go up to the departures and arrivals and I would just sit there and watch people coming and going and I would see them interact and I would just find a calmness in it.
Mm.
And I would go to the movies by myself and
Mm.
I would go eat by myself.
Mm-hmm.
I would drive back and forth from here to Arizona. I always did things by myself. Like And it's okay to be by yourself. It's okay to calm the
Yeah.
noise.
Yeah, I love
And
that.
it's been such a negative stigma around that too, is like,
Mm.
if they're by themselves, they're antisocial. Well, no,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we just care about our own peace and we don't want to be
Yeah.
put into some of this stuff. We're just
Yeah.
protective of what we want,
Yeah,
because
exactly.
I feel like I am an introvert, and
Same here.
I feel that the reason I am that is because I do protect myself and my boundaries, and
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with being that.
Yeah.
I think that that's another one, that like, being introverted doesn't mean that you don't go out, it doesn't mean
Mm-hmm.
that you
Mm-hmm.
don't have friends. It just means that you're protective of your space and
Yeah.
you pick what you want to do, um, to
Just
protect
base.
yourself, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And your energy. Yeah, for
Yeah, your
sure.
energy, and
Yeah.
that's okay to do.
Yeah.
It's not a negative. Some of these things are just, like you said, stereotypes. Like, so homeschooling used to be like, when people see my kids, they're like, oh, well, they're not those weird homeschooled kids that you're used to seeing. Or like, being a
Oh my
stay-at-home mom,
gosh.
I had gone to a board meeting for SISD when my kids were in school. I was very involved, and it was around the time that we were trying to implement changes with the school menus,
Oh.
and I spoke to the board. I At the time, Mr. Nahida was just a board member, and he saw me kind of like just cringing at the things that they were saying, and he's like, I'd like to have a parent seat. Gave me the opportunity to speak, and after the meeting, the superintendent at the time, Dr. Espinosa, comes up to me and he's like, wow, you speak very well. You're very articulate. And it's like, because I'm a stay-at-home mom, people think like I'm not gonna have,
Mm.
and
You're
so
not
it's
going
kind
to
of the
speak
same.
up to
Yeah,
stereotypes and
it's
judgments.
kind of the same thing, and so I feel like, just meet people where they are, just keep talking about things, and just really learn to focus on yourself, protecting yourself, but not by shutting people out. I think that there's always a duality to things, and that
Same here for sure. Yeah.
there's an in between.
That's our nature. Mm-hmm.
And I think that social media is good, but don't be on it all the time. Change up your algorithm. Look up
Mm-hmm.
something that you would typically not look up. I try to do that
Mm-hmm.
often,
I like that.
because then we're just seeing the same shit over and over.
Yeah.
So like,
Yeah.
look up
Change it up a
funny,
bit. Something
change it
funny
up
like
a bit,
animals or I don't know, learn something
funny
about
cats,
space.
or
Yeah.
yeah, like I'll look up
Yeah.
like nail
Yeah.
painting tutorials, or I'll look up just random things, and just change
Or
your
learn something
algorithm.
new. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah,
I
learn
love
something
that.
new.
I love that.
But for the most part, I think that that's basically what it is just kind of listening to yourself more, and making your own set of rules without being a dick about it too, because
Mm-hmm.
there's like, I'm telling you, the dualities are just crazy.
Yeah, no, it can
Um,
extremes. There could be too many
Extremes,
extremes,
and
and
I
then it's
think
like
the
there's no
scene in that
balance.
gray.
Yeah, the
Yeah, I
gray, the
think the
neutral,
scene in that the
the
neutral area,
neutrality.
where it's like, you want to
Yes,
have some of this, you want to have some of this, but you don't want to be extreme. I think it's the same
exactly.
with the politics that are going on in our
A
country
lot
and
of
things like that.
things. It could be around.
Everything
That
is
could be
just
another
been
podcast
so
episode on
extreme.
itself, like
Yeah,
nutrition. I
everything is
mean,
so
wellness. Like it's crazy.
everything is so extreme. Like,
It's either
y'all, it
this
doesn't have,
way, you're either over here, or you're either over here.
and
Yeah,
that is just so not how it is. It's
it's not.
in
It's totally
between.
not.
In
Yeah.
between. Eat a little bit healthier. Change two
Mhm.
meals a day.
Mhm.
Whatever. Like, just
Right.
all I'm saying is take those first steps and start to progress. That's really the
Yeah.
gist of it. Is just start somewhere. You know.
Yeah, I love that. And it started, I mean, you took lots of many different steps and so many, directions forward. And I wanted to kind of ask you this last question here that's kind of just to self-reflect. How has your view of yourself changed since you've started your healing journey?
I used to really think that I was a very confident person, and what I'm starting to find now more in the healing journey, or that I was like a really harsh person, or that I didn't care, or that I was just very this gruff person.
Mm.
And it's quite the opposite. I'm
Mm.
actually very sensitive. I'm very caring. I'm very empathetic. I am
Mm.
confident in my abilities because I have control over that, right? Like, I
Mm-hmm.
have control over the things that I know, and I speak on the things that I know. I I deal a lot with imposter syndrome
Mm-hmm.
recently with the podcast because I
Mm-hmm.
feel like I'm not a mental health specialist. I'm not a mental health professional. I'm just somebody going through a journey.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but in the more that I've gone through my healing, I know that I'm the person at this time that can be speaking on these things because it's what I'm going through. It's what I'm living,
Yes. Yeah.
and it's not fake. I don't fake it. I don't do or say these things to go viral or because I
Mm-hmm.
think I'm gonna have a moment where I become rich on the internet. Like it's nothing like that. It's literally just to help get the word out, and so I'm becoming more
Mm-hmm.
comfortable with myself.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
Um,
And it's more
because I
relatable too. Like you're more relatable to the listeners as well. You know, keeping it real and just sharing what's authentic. And kind of like on that note, what you shared is like if you're someone out there who has an idea that you're passionate about and you want to speak about and you learn a lot about it on your own, doesn't necessarily mean that you always have to have the certificate, the paper, right? You could just have the belief in yourself, the passion, the desire to share it with other people and do it. You don't have to be the expert. Although, side note, we will have these moments of imposter syndrome at the same
for
time.
sure. For sure, you do. And
Yeah.
it's, I saw it was another podcast, one of the ones locally here, and I can't think of the name, but I'll give it to you that way if you mention it. The guy that was on there said imposter syndrome is just a feeling of not being confident or not feeling a type of way. And I was like, oh my God, or being not prepared.
Mm.
And, like he kind of went into it a little bit and it resonated with me because that was when I said, oh, okay, I do know what I'm talking about. I am going through it. And, so I really try on my show to give good information as a person going through it. I give questions to the professionals and then have them answer it. So you'll get
Mm-hmm.
an answer from a person going through it, and then you'll
Mm.
also get an
Your
answer from
perspective. And
from the perspective of a medical professional.
that's super
Yeah, so
helpful.
I
Yeah.
try to give that because that's my most biggest thing is that I want to give good information, helpful information that is gonna really make an impact, a positive
Mm-hmm.
impact on
Mm-hmm.
people's lives, not false information.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Thank you for mentioning that.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
while it is me going through the journey, I do get mental health professionals' opinions, so psychologists, psychotherapists, medical doctors. So I do get a lot of that information as well. But
Awesome.
you'll get the real stuff from me where it's just like blah, just the unfiltered version of
Right.
a lot
Eventually.
of cursing of Ashley. Yeah.
Everybody check it out. It's called Talking About It with Ashley. And you have it available on, is it like on all major podcasts where you can get your
Yes.
podcasts? Yeah.
It's
Okay, cool.
everywhere on the podcast. It's Spotify. Trying to get better about posting on YouTube, iHeartRadio, on our Instagram page at Talking About It. I have a pod link on there, and if you click on that, it'll take you to like all the different ones. So if
Oh,
you have
cool.
a subscription to one, you can just click on it and it'll put it in your playlist.
Okay.
But yeah, I appreciate any sharing that you can do of it because the more ears that we can get listening to
Mm-hmm.
this, again, I'm not trying to go viral or become rich off of this. I just want more people to get the information that I couldn't find. And the more that we can support each
Yes.
other in our podcast, in our healing journeys, the more we share, the more people that we get bumped up and we're able to get more information.
Yeah, it can help. And then as it becomes that ripple effect, right? It becomes that
Exactly.
ripple effect. And we can continue to break those generational cycles for sure. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here again. If this conversation spoke to you or you felt something, please share it with someone who you feel could hear it too. It's really important we keep having these conversations to normalize them, break down, talk about the myths, reminding each other that mental health is an important, essential aspect of our health. Let's not forget our emotional, our spiritual health as well, and our physical, because we're all interconnected. They are all interconnected. We're not just a mind, we're our body, we're our spirit, we're our soul. So it's really important. That's why we talk about here on the podcast is taking a holistic approach to our health. And let's not forget about our mental health. And if that's been something on your mind, right, you can always take that first step. whatever that might be, talking with somebody or talking with a friend or reading a book, right? Or anything like that, maybe a support group, anything like that. It speaks to us in different ways. The call for healing. Yeah. But thank you so much
for having me on.
Yeah, thank you so much. Well, I see we have some more in the future. And thanks everybody for listening today. And y'all take care. Bye.